Hello, gang. Let's experiment a little bit here with some glazing. I can just about count on one hand, I think, the number of times that I've ever done a green glaze. Very unusual. I'm usually a lot more intent on backing down on the green. It's such a hot color, so to speak. It's a aggressive color, so to speak. It attacks the eyes of the viewer. So I'm usually backing down, but for some reason I just felt like, on this layer anyway, I'm actually in the mood to make it a little greener. How about that? You just never know, do you? All right, let's get official. Hello, my name's Dan. This is Daily Art Adventure number 941. I'm calling it Dark Details After the Fuzz Layer. On working title for this painting, I'm calling it Roman Ruins. This is for Buddy. Buddy, I hope you watch this. Sorry it's taken me so long to get back to it. Man, life's been just unusual lately. Not up to my normal productivity. So good to be back in front of a painting. I'm still doing mostly green glazes. All right, so first of all, a reference to the title that I put both on the clapper and on my YouTube page. The main thing that I'm going to do in this broadcast is dark details after the fuzz layer. Now, and I did the fuzz layer without you guys last week, the last time I was working on this painting. But I'm trying to remember. I did a glaze, I think, in my last broadcast. Did a glaze, yeah, that's it. And then did the fuzz again without your company of all the nerve. I know. I have some nerve doing some painting without you, but every once in a while, just the way it turns out. I was quite happy with the feel that was developing in the fuzz layer. Another word for the fuzz layer could be atmosphere, and that's certainly what I did here when I did this pale green and blue back there. It really pushed the background into the background, which made me very, very happy. All right, I'm doing a little bit of now oxide red. That's a very orange-ish. Yeah, good. That looks better. So everything I'm doing right now then doesn't fit the description that I put on this video, but I won't spend long doing this. I'll be into dark details in just a minute. Bear with me. I just love the act of glazing. I love the technique of glazing. I just put some purple on my brushes to make this even darker down here in that corner. And I think I like it. I'm going to do it over here as well. When it comes to transparent colors, which of course is what you're dealing with when you're doing transparent glazes, when it comes to transparent colors, purple is the darkest of the transparents. So very often when I'm glazing with purple, it's not because I think this or that object are in actuality purple, but it's just dark. All right, I think that's good enough. So clean these brushes just real quickly. And then finally, let's get started doing some of those dark details. So I'm going to pick up fairly, oh good, I have two long handled brushes, that's nice. Well, I'm going to start up a little bit brave. We'll see how long it lasts, this bravery. But I'm mixing up Naphthol Crimson and Permanent Rose. Hello, Michael. Good to hear from you again. And Uncle, that's right, tea time. So I've got dark red on my brushes. Michael, are you Deborah? Forgive me. I'm sorry. There's one of my fairly regular viewers who's a woman who uses her husband's account. And forgive me, Michael, if you're Michael, forgive me. But if you're Deborah, hi. And I should know. I really should remember it's who you are. Just a little bit more red. Red's pretty powerful stuff. Yeah, that looks all right. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and shift around to a little bit more of a purple color. So again, a little bit darker. When I started doing a separate and dedicated fuzz layer, I don't know when, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I don't know, something like that. I should write these things down. The thing is, when I start doing them, I don't realize that they're going to become, you know, a new part of my painting practice or my repertoire. Anyway, when I started it, one of the main functions of the fuzz layer was to drastically increase the percentage of soft edges in my paintings. Yesterday, when I was painting the girls' trio, Richard Schmid was the name I was looking for at one point. I was trying, what's that guy's name? I drew a complete blank. Richard Schmid has written a very famous painting book, plein air paint. Everything I know about plein air painting. No. I'm sorry. Everything I know about alla prima. That's it. All at once painting by Richard Schmid. Very, very famous teacher in America. I believe he's still living. He's pretty advanced in age. Anyway, he maybe coined the term. I'm not sure that's true, but he certainly coined it as far as I'm concerned, because I never remember hearing the expression edge control. And what Richard Schmid meant by edge control was this conscious, very conscious awareness of the interplay, or the ratio, how many soft edges versus how many hard edges. That's what, in my language, that's what he meant. That's what he means by edge control. And the reason I'm saying that is so the last thing I did, besides the glaze that you just saw me do a minute ago, but before that, was fuzz. So I softened up everything quite a bit. There's glow happening. That's another word for the fuzz layer. It would be the glow layer. That would be an appropriate description as well. All right, so there's, at the end of that stage, there quite a bit of softness in the painting, and that, it gives me I feel like a lot of freedom then to do what I'm doing right now, which is put a lot of hard edges into the painting. I feel free to do that because I put a whole lot of soft edge into it right before I did that. I'm not sure that it's making much sense, but I say this often. It's very easy when it comes to hard and soft edges. It's very, very easy to fall into the trap, fall into the mistake of having too many hard edges. Are you listening, somebody? Some early journey painter really needs to hear this. Oh, hi, Michael. You're actually Michael. I'm sorry. Well, you are not Deborah. Thanks. And forgive me. Like I said, I'm embarrassed because I really should know. Oh, what is the handle? Maybe Uncle can tell me. Uncle, are you listening? Not yet. Yes, you are. And Light Blue, hey man. Thanks again for your generous gift yesterday. I told my wife about that. She was pleased as well. Thank you so much. Now, again, let me sort of introduce you to one of the principles, maybe the practices that the patterns, a pattern of my painting. And that is, at the end of this stage right here, my painting will have too many hard edges. Why? Because that's what I'm doing right now. And I'm going to try not to do too many. Truly, I am, but I'm probably going to overdo it a little bit. And here's why I don't worry about that too much. Is because the painting's not finished. And the next layer after this one is what I call the final edit layer. And even though that has quite a few hard edges in it, it will cover up, diminish, smudge over, perhaps one could say, a lot of the edges that I'm doing right now. So part of my the pattern of my painting I've evolved in my painting so that I observe several distinct layers, distinct phases, distinct stages in my painting process. And you regulars, you know this. You can ignore all this I'm saying, just in case anybody new is watching. So I have step 1, 2, 3, 4, up to step 15, 16, 17 by the time I'm done. And at the end of each of those stages, until the very end, at the end, after each stage or phase, there tends to be too much of the last thing that I did. Does that make sense? So right now, I'm doing skinny, fairly hard edge, little feathery lines. One could say at the end of this stage of my painting, you could say my painting is likely to be too liney. Ew, too many lines. I could imagine a art critic or an art professor saying, ew, no, too many lines. And I would say, guilty, correct, that there are too many lines. Another way to describe, and this might be helpful to some people, it's difficult. Now I do know that certainly some people do it, because not everybody paints the way I do, so they're already clearly doing something different than I am. But I would say it's hard to create and edit. By edit, I mean sort of like tapping the brake, slowing down, undoing what you're doing. It's hard to do and undo at the same time. At least for me it is. It's hard for my brain to go in two directions. For instance, right now my mind is saying, ooh, yeah, draw lines, lots of lines, draw really cool. And of course, as you know, I'm being very conscious of the feel, the nature, the feel of the lines. The essence of good painting is making interesting marks, right? So I'm very much focused on making marks that are interesting and so on. So I'm making a lot of lines. And it's hard to draw lines and be careful not to draw lines at the same time. Does that make sense? Now, it just makes sense to me anyway. Again, evidently, most people don't do what I'm describing here, because they do sort of paint everything all at once. At least a lot of people do. It seems to me, it appears to me. Anyway, so that's just me being idiosyncratic. Is that a word? It's one of my idiosyncrasies. It's hard to do and undo at the same time. So just forget the undo, just do. Just do, in this case, just do the lines. All right, beating that horse to death. Nay, it ain't so. That was a dead horse saying nay, by the way, just in case you missed that subtle humor. Pretty bad when you have to point out your own bad puns, isn't it? What I'm doing right now makes me think, oh yeah, there's another practice that has really become significant for me in the last, fairly recently. I've done it for a long time, but now it's a very conscious doing, and that is put down a mark with a paintbrush, like a typical painter. Typical painter paints with brushes, right? So put down the marks, and then make a practice of messing up the marks, scratching them, smudging them, rubbing them in some way. So again, that's just something that's become pretty standard for me in the last couple of years. Let me pause just a second. You can see so far. Now there's going to be a deer over here. She's not even, she wasn't sketched in earlier, but she disappeared. Of course, an eagle here, and I printed out reference for both of those. I'm not going to do that out of my head, of course. But all of the liney details that I've done so far are from here to here, a tiny bit there. So pretty much in the middle of the painting. And you can imagine that that's probably going to be the pattern. I'm going to focus most of this detail. And that to me is just intuitive. You know, left to my own devices, I will naturally I've lived essentially in 3 parts of the country in my lifetime. Grew up in the Midwest, Michigan mostly, upper Midwest, Michigan, a little bit of Ohio. Born in Canada, but grew up in Michigan. And then spent 9 years of my adult life in Texas, 2 different places in Texas, and then have lived in North Carolina for the last 31 years. And in my experience, there's, compared to the other 2 places, the woods, the forests of North Carolina are replete with vines. So that's where some of this stuff comes from. When you walk out in a natural woodland area in North Carolina, well, first of all, you're going to walk and face first into a bunch of cobwebs. So very quickly, when you go for a walk in the woods, which I love doing, always have my whole life, love the woods, love walking in them. You pick up a dead branch, preferably one that has, not a straight stick, but a branch with several twigs growing off it, and you wave it in front of you up and down as you walk through the woods. Otherwise it won't be long till you get a face full of cobwebs. And it's not the cobwebs, it's wondering where the mother it's wondering where in your body that the spider that made that web is crawling at this very moment. That's the part that gets your attention. Anyway, so cobwebs and vines. There's one more vine maybe up close. And you understand, I hope, perhaps, if you regulars understand that what I'm doing right now is not the final edit layer. So when I do the final edit, I can take out as many of these lines, or in this case, as many of these vines as I want to. I'm looking at the trees in the background. I definitely want them to stay softer than the stuff up front, but I'm wondering now about if I should have just a little bit of detail. Nah, that's enough. That's enough. I answered that question quickly, didn't I? I haven't talked about it directly, but if you're watching me and you're what I call an early journey painter, do try to pay attention to the way that I paint trees and foliage. Both the twigs and the branches and the foliage. I haven't done much foliage till right there. You don't want to paint one stroke equals one branch. Now that is how most beginners paint, and that's why their trees are stilted, don't have nearly enough branches. instead you want to come up with a system, a pattern, a way of moving your hands and your brushes and your paint and so on and so forth, so that the movements that you make create the illusion of, and now I'm doing foliage, but create the illusion of many branches, not a branch, not one stroke. You know, one stroke equals one branch. That is not a good way to paint, in my humble opinion. My opinion is not that humble on this subject. I'm pretty adamant about this. Years ago, I put together, for an art class, I put together a list of the 10 biggest mistakes made in landscape painting. And there was a bunch of them. Inadequate light, dark, contrast, too many hard edges, inadequate atmospheric perspective, and so on and so forth. But the second, so it was like the old Dave Letterman countdown from, you know, top 10, starting with 10 going down to 1. And the number 2 was stick hyphen Y, stick-ish trees. I don't know how to say that word. I'm not sticky trees, but trees that were stick-ish. Too many sticks, and actually not enough sticks is the problem. But stick-ish in their feeling, and that's sort of what I'm addressing right here. By the way, the number 1 mistake, in my opinion, made in landscape, that was number 2. What was number 1? The answer was cliches, or to be a little bit more precise and offensive, Bob Ross paintings. You know, the quintessential everything. Now, everything in this painting, and not everything, but a lot of things are cliche. The big arching tree, the stone bridge, the lake, the distant trees, but I am quite confident they're put together, and of course the stone columns, ruins, that's not typical, and even calling the bridge typical is iffy. But they're, I believe, put together in such a way that it's not cliche. Light blue. I forgot what happened yesterday already. Me too, me too. Well, hello from Russia. I wish I could read your name. I'm so sorry. Michael, were you really on top of Scotland? Oh, light blue, goodbye. Thanks for joining us for a little while. Wow. I agree with Uncle. Send us some pictures to paint from Scotland. We are green with envy. So, land of my ancestors as well. Our daughter-in-law a couple of years ago paid for my wife and I to do the 23andMe genetic, whatever it's called, mapping. She should have saved her money. Both of us were boring. Guess what? I'm a white guy. Scotch, Irish, English, Northern European. So, yeah. I have a castle over there. A couple of them, evidently. Michael. Part of the Gunn clan and part of the Mackenzie clan. I think the Gunn is a little bit... When I go to the Highland Games, I register with the Gunn clan, even though evidently I'm part of the Mackenzie as well. But anyway, so... Two of my kids have been to Scotland. One of them, no, both of them for quite, not just passing through, but they're for months at a time. But my wife has not been. That's high on my list. All right, so I am finished with oh, no, I'm not. Okay, hang on. Glad I didn't turn off. I was just about to say I'm done, but I'm not. Let's do two things. I'm going to change gears here slightly. Looking for a way to hang up my reference. I want a picture of a deer, first of all. And I will use, I'm going to start the deer with pencils. So there's my deer, close enough. And she's going to go right in here. Oh, the pencils don't even show up, hardly, so that's not such a great idea. That's all right, it'll get me started. Wait a minute. Let me think a little more carefully about, I don't want it centered on the bridge. No, let's back her up a little bit. All right. Ignore that one. Let's put her back here. And I want her pretty subtle. Now, it would please me if some of the people wouldn't even see the deer, but more likely that they won't see it at first. They'll see it at third glance. That's probably good enough. And now let's do a little bit of work on that eagle. So this painting is for Buddy, and I don't know if Buddy's watching right now, but I expect he will watch later if he's not watching right now. So Buddy, thanks for the assignment. I'm enjoying this painting in particular. It really hits a lot of my sweet spots, I would say. Landscape, a little bit of mild fantasy, and if you see anything you want me to comment on, feel free to do that, of course. All right, so there's a little bit of the eagle drawn in, and these are not vines, those necessarily. Those are just abstract marks. Now this is detail. I'm doing rocks on the. I know I say this every time, but just in case there's somebody watching, no, it is not. It is not conventional. You do not use you do not use pencils in an oil painting. Okay, just want you to understand that. So what you see me doing right now is not typical. It's just weird, just Dan Nelson weirdness. That's all it is. I just like the way it looks. The scratchy pencil juxtaposed with the smushy paint. All right, that's good enough. And I think here's what I'm going to do, gang. I'm going to stop here because I've accomplished the title, which was dark details on top of the fuzz layer. I'm going to take just a few minutes break. I don't know how long, not too long, a little break, and come back. I'm 90% sure this afternoon, probably in the next 30 minutes or so, where I'll begin the all-important final edit layer. I really am liking this. This is fun. So I'm excited about going to the next stage. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll be back in just a little while. Let's see what else. Yes, Susan. I know it's a shock, isn't it? Ray, you're exactly right. You got it. Trees, lake, mountain. You got it. Exactly. Hello, Richard. Oh, wonderful. Glad you caught us before meeting. Really, you've been to McEwen Castle. Very cool. Anyway, getting to Scotland truly is on our bucket list. Well, to tell you the truth, Scotland, Ireland, they're really both, and I have ancestors in both. Not at all unusual in that regard. Probably, anyway, I was going to say probably Scotland, but who knows. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll be back in a little while. Bye, y'all.